Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the shadowy streets of Chicago to uncover the story of one of America's most infamous criminal organizations, the Chicago Outfit. Forget what you think you know from the movies, because the real story is even more dramatic, more complex, and absolutely fascinating. Our story begins in the late 19th century. As Chicago boomed, so did its underworld. Waves of immigrants arrived seeking a better life, but many found themselves in crowded, impoverished neighborhoods. In these areas, like the Levy District, vice-based gangs started to form. These weren't sophisticated operations yet. They were brutal street gangs carving out territory. One of the key figures from this era was Big Jim Colosimo. He wasn't just a thug, he was a businessman who understood the power of organization. He consolidated control over gambling dens and other rackets, building a foundation for what was to come. Big Jim had an eye for talent, and he brought in a man from New York to help handle his business and provide some muscle. That man's name was Johnny Torrio. Torrio was different. He was quiet, calculating, and a brilliant strategist. He saw the bigger picture. While other gangsters were fighting block by block, Torrio envisioned a unified city-wide criminal empire. He believed that cooperation was more profitable than constant warfare. But the game was about to change in a way no one could have predicted. In 1920, the 18th Amendment was passed, and prohibition began. Suddenly, the production and sale of alcohol became illegal. For the gangsters of Chicago, this wasn't a problem. It was the business opportunity of a lifetime. The demand for liquor didn't disappear. It just went underground, and the profits were astronomical. To capitalize on this, Torrio needed someone with charisma, ambition, and a ruthless streak. He found that person in a young hothead from Brooklyn named Al Capone. Capone started as Torrio's right-hand man, but his larger-than-life personality quickly made him a star in the Chicago underworld. Together, Torrio and Capone built a massive bootlegging operation, controlling breweries, transportation networks, and speakeasies. They were making millions, but this new gold rush also attracted competition. Rival gangs like the North Side Gang, led by the formidable Dion O'Banion, wanted their piece of the pie. The streets of Chicago turned into a war zone. The tension exploded in 1924 when O'Banion was assassinated in his own flower shop. This act ignited the beer wars. The North Siders, now led by Jaime Weiss and later George Bugs Moran, retaliated. There were drive-by shootings, bombings, and assassination attempts. Torrio himself was nearly killed in an ambush outside his home. Shaken and wounded, Torrio decided he'd had enough. In 1925, he handed the keys to the kingdom to his protege, Al Capone, and retired. At just 26 years old, Al Capone was now the undisputed king of Chicago's underworld. Capone's reign was legendary. He wasn't just a gangster, he was a celebrity. He lived in lavish hotels, wore expensive suits, and gave interviews to reporters. He cultivated a Robin Hood image, opening soup kitchens for the poor during the Great Depression. But behind the public facade was a cold, calculating killer. His organization was more efficient and more violent than ever. He bribed politicians, judges, and police officers, effectively making him untouchable by local law enforcement. His control over Chicago was almost absolute, but his rivals in the North Side Gang were still a thorn in his side. Capone decided to end the war once and for all. On February 14, 1929, the world was shocked by the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Men dressed as police officers entered a garage used by the North Side Gang and executed 7 of Moran's men. Moran himself was lucky. He was running late and saw the police car, so he stayed away. While Capone was conveniently in Florida, everyone knew who was behind it. The sheer brutality of the massacre horrified the public and brought intense pressure from the federal government. President Herbert Hoover famously told his Treasury Department to get Capone. They couldn't pin any murders on him, but they found another way. A special team of investigators from the Treasury Department, known as the Untouchables, and led by Eliot Ness, relentlessly harassed Capone's operations. But the real breakthrough came from a different angle: his finances. Using forensic accounting, federal agent Frank Wilson pieced together a case showing Capone's immense income without any record of him paying taxes. In 1931, Al Capone was convicted not of murder or bootlegging, but of tax evasion. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, eventually ending up in Alcatraz. His reign was over. With Capone gone, the outfit needed new leadership. The era of the flamboyant celebrity gangster was over. The new bosses like Frank Nitti, Paul the Waiter Rica, and Tony Accardo were the complete opposite of Capone. They were low-profile, business-minded, and publicity-shy. They understood that drawing attention was bad for business. They steered the outfit away from the chaos of bootlegging and diversified its portfolio. They moved heavily into labor racketeering, controlling unions to extort businesses. They expanded their gambling operations, not just in Chicago, but across the country, most famously in a dusty desert town that was just starting to grow, Las Vegas. Under leaders like Accardo, known as Joe Batters, the outfit entered its golden age. For decades, they operated in the shadows, their influence stretching from Hollywood to Washington, D.C. They were masters of infiltration and corruption. Their methods were more subtle, but their power was arguably greater than it ever was under Capone. They preferred bribery and extortion over open warfare. This period, from the 1940s to the 1970s, was when the Chicago outfit was at its most powerful and most profitable, a silent, invisible empire. But nothing lasts forever. By the 1980s, things started to change. Aggressive federal prosecutions, using new laws like the RICO Act, began to dismantle the outfit from the inside out. Key members became government informants, breaking the sacred code of silence, or omerta. The infamous Family Secrets trial in 2007 was a devastating blow, leading to the convictions of top outfit leaders for decades-old crimes. The trial exposed the inner workings of the modern mob and shattered its mystique. So where does the Chicago outfit stand today? It's a shadow of its former self. The old neighborhoods have changed, the rackets they controlled have dried up or been taken over by other groups, and the code of silence is broken. While some believe a smaller, more fragmented version still exists, its power and influence have been drastically reduced. The days of controlling the city are long gone. The story of the Chicago outfit is a classic American tale of ambition, power, and eventual decline. It's a reminder of a violent and corrupt chapter in Chicago's history, a chapter that, while closed, will never be forgotten. Thanks so much for watching. It's a massive topic, and we've only scratched the surface. What part of the outfit's history do you find most interesting? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. We'll see you in the next one.